The only way to remove a sitting president is through the process of impeachment, and as a country, we've never successfully done that before. Current Justice Department regulations state that a sitting president cannot be indicted for crimes, so the only way to get a president out of office and hold him accountable for his actions is through impeachment. What is impeachment? Impeachment is the process by which Congress can remove a sitting president from office before the end of their term. Only 3 presidents have ever faced articles of impeachment: Andrew Johnson in 1868, Richard Nixon in 1974, and Bill Clinton in 1998-99. None of them were actually indicted and removed from office. Bill Clinton and Andrew Johnson both beat the charges and continued to be president, and Richard Nixon pieced his way out of the office before he could actually be put on trial. The way that impeachment works is pretty simple. First, members of the House of Representatives vote on at least one article of impeachment. If the articles of impeachment are approved by a simple majority of members of the House, the whole shebang moves over to the Senate, where they hold trials. Select members of the House of Representatives, called managers, act as prosecutors. Members of the Senate sit impaneled as a jury. The president has his own legal team of defense attorneys, and the whole thing is presided over by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. So from there it gets a little bit wonky because there are no official rules governing how an impeachment hearing works. Each different Senate is going to have to write their own rules and pass them. Greg Craig, who helped defend President Clinton during his impeachment, said, quote, "When the Senate decided what the rules were going to be for our trial, they really made them up as they went along." So basically, it can be the Wild Wild West. The Senate holds their hearings with their completely made up rules, and if 2/3 of the Senate decides to vote for indictment, the president is automatically removed from office. If he does not pass that 2/3, he just goes back to doing his job. What are impeachable offenses? There are 3 main categories of actions for which a president can be impeached: treason, bribery, and high crimes and misdemeanors. Treason is very specifically defined in the Constitution. Treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. So you can only technically commit treason if the United States is at war. The next category is bribery, which is where things get a little fuzzier. Bribery in this context covers both giving and receiving bribes, and it has a lot to do with your intent. So there are a lot of things in politics which on face value could be considered a bribe, but if they're not done with malicious intent, they're not considered impeachable or criminal. I really like a political candidate. I like their values. I think they're going to do good stuff for me. I give them a bunch of money. That's not considered a bribe. But if I have committed a crime and I'm like, hey, political candidate, if I give you a bunch of money, will you let me off on this crime? And they say, hey, great, and take my money, that's a bribe. The last one is high crimes and misdemeanors. The framers at the 1787 Constitutional Convention originally only included treason and bribery as reasons that a president could be indicted, but they worried that that was very, very narrow in scope. So they added another category called maladministration, which basically just means you're bad at your job. But then there were some concerns amongst the founders because they already had something in place to deal with presidents who committed maladministration. They're called elections. You just vote them out of office. So you don't have to have a whole criminal hearing to get rid of them. The founders substituted the word maladministration with the phrase high crimes and misdemeanors, which covered a much broader swath of activity. The problem with this category is that because it covers so much space, it's all super hypothetical and it's up to the individual lawmakers. So what somebody could consider a high crime or misdemeanor, another person could consider just something that was maybe a little bit shady while in office and not an impeachable offense. So all of that conversation about high crimes and misdemeanors brings us to right now with President Donald Trump. Since before Donald Trump was even inaugurated, people have been throwing around the word impeachment. But especially since the release of the Mueller report, it's been really top of mind for a lot of politicians and pundits. Want to learn more about the Constitution and other things you're never going to get? Like this video and subscribe to our channel.